My husband forgot our 20th anniversary, but he planned an elaborate party for his colleague's promotion. I spent 20 years building a life with a man who made me feel like I was the center of his universe. We'd weathered financial crises, health scares, and the chaos of raising 2 children. I thought we were unbreakable. I thought our love was the kind that only grew stronger with time. But on the day of our 20th anniversary, I discovered how wrong I was. He came home late, distracted, and completely oblivious. He'd forgotten our anniversary. No card, no flowers, no acknowledgement. I tried to be understanding. I tried to let it go. Then I discovered he'd spent the entire week planning an elaborate party for his female colleague's promotion, complete with decorations, catering, and a heartfelt speech. He remembered her special day but forgot ours. When I confronted him, he told me I was being dramatic, and it's just a date. My mother told me to let it go because he's a good provider. I'm heartbroken, furious, and finally ready to demand the respect I deserve. The morning of our 20th anniversary started like any other morning. I woke up early, made coffee, and started planning the special dinner I'd been looking forward to for weeks. I'd bought a new dress, a beautiful emerald green that brought out my eyes. I'd made reservations at the restaurant where we'd had our first date. I'd even bought him a thoughtful gift, a vintage watch he'd been eyeing for years. I wanted this day to be perfect. I wanted to remind him why we'd fallen in love all those years ago. I wanted to celebrate the life we'd built together. I was 45 years old, and I'd been married to Derek for 2 decades. We'd met in college, fallen in love, and built a life together. We had 2 children, a beautiful home, and a history that I cherish. Derek was a good man, hardworking, dependable, and loving in his own quiet way. But over the years, he'd become increasingly distant. His job consumed him, and I'd become an afterthought. I'd told myself it was just a phase. I'd told myself he was just stressed. I'd told myself that when the kids were older, when work slowed down, we'd find our way back to each other. I'd been telling myself that for years. That morning, I kissed him goodbye and reminded him about our dinner plans. "Don't forget," I said, smiling. "Tonight is special." He nodded absently, already scrolling through his phone. "Of course, I'll be there." I should have known something was wrong. I should have seen the signs. But I was so focused on making the day perfect that I ignored the nagging feeling in my gut. The day passed slowly. I got my hair done, put on my new dress, and set the table with our finest china. I lit candles, opened a bottle of wine, and waited. 6 o'clock came and went. 7 o'clock. 8 o'clock. I called his phone, but it went straight to voicemail. I texted him, but he didn't respond. I sat at the table, the candles burning low, the wine growing warm, and tried to hold back the tears. At 9 o'clock, he finally walked through the door. He was still in his work clothes, his tie loosened, his hair disheveled. He looked exhausted, distracted, completely unaware. "Natasha," he said, blinking at the table. "What's all this?" I stared at him, my heart sinking. "It's our anniversary, Derek. Our 20th anniversary." His face went pale. Oh no. "I'm so sorry, Natasha." I completely forgot. I felt the tears prick at my eyes. "You forgot? I reminded you this morning. I've been planning this for weeks." I know. I'm so sorry. Work has been insane. The promotion, the deadlines. I've been so overwhelmed." He ran a hand through his hair, looking genuinely distressed. "I'm sorry, baby. I'll make it up to you. I promise." I wanted to scream. I wanted to throw the wine glass against the wall, but I swallowed the anger and nodded. "It's okay. I understand. Work is important. I didn't understand, but I'd spent my entire life being the understanding wife. I didn't know how to be anything else." The next few days were tense. Derek apologized profusely, bought me flowers, and promised to plan a makeup anniversary dinner. I pretended to forgive him, but the hurt lingered. I'd spent 20 years being the supportive wife, the one who always understood. And for what? Then I discovered the truth. I was cleaning his home office when I found the receipts. They were tucked into a drawer, hidden under a stack of papers. Catering orders, decorations, a large deposit to a party planning company. The date on the receipts was the same week as our anniversary. I stared at them, my heart pounding. What was all this? He'd told me he was too busy to plan anything for our anniversary, but he'd clearly planned something elaborate. I confronted him that evening. "Derek," I said, holding up the receipts. "What is this?" He looked at them, and I saw the panic flicker across his face. "Oh, that. It's nothing. Just work stuff." "Work stuff?" I repeated, incredulous. "Catering? Decorations? A party planner? This doesn't look like work stuff," he sighed, rubbing the back of his neck. "I was planning a party for Tanya. She got promoted, and I wanted to celebrate. It was a surprise." I felt the air leave my lungs. Tanya, his female colleague, the one he'd been working late with for months, the one he was always texting, always talking about. "You threw her a party," I said slowly. "An elaborate party with catering and decorations, on the same week as our anniversary. She just got a big promotion, Natasha. It was important to her. I wanted to support her. You supported her," I said, my voice shaking. "You spent a week planning her party. You remembered her special day, but you forgot ours. You forgot 20 years of marriage." He looked at me, and I saw the defensiveness creep into his eyes. "Natasha, you're being dramatic. It's just a date." "It's not like I forgot our entire marriage. Just a date?" I repeated, my voice rising. 20 years, Derek. 20 years of my life, and you forgot." I said I was sorry. Sorry isn't enough. I walked out of the room before I could say something I'd regret. I went to the bedroom, closed the door, and let myself cry. I thought about all the years I'd spent supporting his career, all the nights I'd waited up for him, all the sacrifices I'd made. I'd given him everything, and he'd given me nothing but empty promises. I called my mother that evening. I needed someone to understand. Mom, I said, my voice shaking. Derek forgot our anniversary. He planned a party for his colleague instead. My mother sighed. Natasha, you need to let this go. Derek is a good provider. He works hard for you and the children. Don't make a big deal out of nothing. Nothing? He forgot 20 years of marriage, Mom. How is that nothing? Men are forgetful, she said. It doesn't mean he doesn't love you. You need to be the bigger person. I hung up, feeling more alone than ever. The weeks after our anniversary were some of the loneliest of my life. Derek continued to apologize, but his apologies felt hollow, rehearsed. He'd bring home flowers, leave sweet notes on the counter, and promise to make it up to me. But every time he did, I couldn't stop thinking about Tanya, about the party he'd thrown for her, about the way he'd remembered her special day while forgetting ours. I started to notice things I'd ignored for years. The way his face lit up when he talked about her, the way he'd mention her name casually, as if she were just another colleague, the way he'd come home late and claim he was working late. I didn't want to believe it. I didn't want to think that my husband of 20 years was having an affair, but the doubts were creeping in, poisoning everything. I started checking his phone. I know it was wrong. I know I should have trusted him, but I couldn't help myself. I needed to know the truth. What I found made my blood run cold. There were messages between Derek and Tanya, long conversations that stretched late into the night, inside jokes and shared complaints about work, photos of them at coffee shops, at happy hour, at conferences, nothing overtly romantic, nothing explicit, but the intimacy was there. The kind of intimacy that should have been reserved for a spouse. I confronted him again. This time I was more prepared. I had the evidence. I had the receipts, Derek, I said, my voice steady despite the tremor in my hands. I saw your messages. I saw the photos. What's going on between you and Tanya? He looked at me, and I saw the panic flicker across his face. Nothing is going on. She's just a colleague. A friend. A friend? I repeated, incredulous. You text her late at night. You have coffee with her. You planned an elaborate party for her promotion. You don't do that for a friend. Natasha, you're reading too much into this. She's been going through a difficult time, and I've been trying to support her. That's all. Support her? You're supporting her while you're neglecting me. You forgot our 20th anniversary, Derek. You forgot 20 years of marriage. And you expect me to believe that nothing is going on? He was silent for a long moment. When he finally spoke, his voice was defensive. I told you I was sorry about the anniversary. I don't know what else you want from me. I want the truth, I said. I want to know if you're having an affair. I'm not having an affair, he said, his voice hard. How can you even ask me that? Because you're not acting like my husband, I said. You're acting like a stranger. I walked out of the room before I could say something I'd regret. I couldn't look at him. I couldn't trust anything he said. The next few weeks were a blur of tension and silence. Derek and I barely spoke. We moved around each other like strangers, careful not to touch, not to engage. I started sleeping in the guest room. I couldn't bear to be near him. I started seeing a therapist. Dr. Morrison was patient and kind, helping me untangle the mess of emotions I was carrying. You've been betrayed, she said one afternoon. Whether or not he's having an affair, he's betrayed your trust. He's made you feel invisible. And that's a deep wound. I don't know what to do, I admitted. I don't know if I can trust him again. That's a decision you'll have to make, Dr. Morrison said. But first you need to figure out what you want. Do you want to save your marriage? Or do you want to walk away? I didn't have an answer. Not yet. I started to rebuild my own life. I reconnected with old friends, joined a book club, and started taking painting classes. It was strange at first, doing things for myself. I'd spent 20 years being Derek's wife, the children's mother, the caretaker. I'd forgotten who I was outside of those roles. One evening, I came home to find Derek waiting for me. He looked different. Softer, more vulnerable. There was a look in his eyes that I hadn't seen in years. Natasha, he said, his voice quiet. We need to talk. I sat down across from him, bracing myself for another argument. But what he said next surprised me. I'm sorry, he said. I've been a terrible husband. I've taken you for granted. I've made you feel invisible. And I'm so sorry. I stared at him, waiting for the punchline. But there was no punchline. He just looked at me with tears in his eyes. I've been seeing a therapist, he said. I've been trying to understand why I did what I did. Why I forgot our anniversary. Why I pushed you away. And I've realized that I was scared. Scared of what? I asked, my voice barely a whisper. Scared of getting old. Scared of being ordinary. Scared that I'd wasted my life. And instead of dealing with my own fears, I pushed you away. I made you the scapegoat for my own insecurities. I felt tears prick at my eyes. So what does that mean? Does that mean you're sorry? Yes, he said. It means I'm sorry. And it means I want to change. I want to be the husband you deserve. I wanted to believe him. I wanted to believe that he could change. That we could rebuild what we'd lost. But I'd been hurt too many times. I didn't know if I could trust him again. I need time, I said. I need to figure out what I want. He nodded. I understand. I'll give you as much time as you need. The days turned into weeks. Derek kept his distance, respecting my need for space. He went to therapy regularly, and I could see the changes in him. He was more present, more attentive, more aware, but the wound was still fresh. I wasn't ready to forgive him. Then one evening, I found a letter on my pillow. It was from Derek, written in his own handwriting. Natasha, it began. I know I don't deserve you. I know I've hurt you in ways I can never undo. But I want you to know that I love you. I've always loved you. I just forgot how to show it. I read the letter through tears. He wrote about our early years, the way we'd fallen in love, the dreams we'd shared. He wrote about the children. the life we'd built, the future he still wanted to have with me. I'll wait for you, he wrote. I'll wait as long as it takes, because you're worth waiting for. I set the letter down and stared out the window. The sky was dark, the stars just beginning to appear. I thought about everything we'd been through, the good times and the bad, the laughter and the tears. I thought about the life we'd built, the family we'd created, and I realized that I wasn't ready to give up on us. Not yet. I walked to the living room where Derek was sitting on the couch. He looked up when I entered, his eyes full of hope. I'm not ready to forgive you, I said, but I'm willing to try. If you're willing to put in the work. He stood up, his face breaking into a smile. I'll do whatever it takes, he said. I promise. It wasn't a complete reconciliation. There was still too much pain, too many years of neglect, but it was a start. The year after Derek's letter was one of transformation. We started couples therapy, a painful but necessary process. Our therapist, Dr. Ellison, helped us untangle the mess of resentment, neglect, and miscommunication that had built up over 2 decades. Natasha, Dr. Ellison said one afternoon, you've spent 20 years being the understanding wife. You've put your own needs aside to support Derek's career, his ambitions, his dreams. But in doing so, you've lost yourself. I nodded, tears streaming down my face. I know. I don't even know who I am anymore. You're a woman who's been invisible for too long, Dr. Ellison said gently. It's time to start taking up space. Derek looked at me, his eyes full of remorse. I never saw it. I was so focused on my own life that I didn't see what I was doing to you. I'm so sorry. Sorry isn't enough, I said, repeating the words I'd said so many times. I need to see change. I need to know that this isn't just empty promises. I'll show you, he said. I'll show you every single day. He did. He started coming home early. He helped with dinner. He planned date nights. He listened when I spoke. He stopped mentioning Tanya's name and I stopped checking his phone. It wasn't easy. There were setbacks, moments when old patterns resurfaced, times when I wanted to walk away again. But we kept trying. I also started prioritizing myself. I went back to school, earning a degree in interior design. I opened my own small business, decorating homes for clients who appreciated my vision. I started painting again, creating pieces that reflected my journey. I found myself again. I found the woman I'd lost somewhere along the way. The first anniversary after the betrayal was different. Derek planned it himself. No help from me, no reminders, no hints. He took me to a small bed and breakfast in the mountains, the same place we'd honeymooned 21 years ago. He'd arranged flowers, candles, and a handwritten letter that made me cry. I know I can't undo the past, he said, his voice shaking. I know I hurt you in ways I can never make up for, but I want you to know that I love you. I've always loved you, and I'm going to spend the rest of my life showing you how much you matter. I looked at him, this man who'd broken my heart, and then spent a year trying to put it back together. He wasn't perfect. He'd made terrible mistakes, but he was trying, and that was enough. I love you too, I said, and I forgive you. It wasn't a magical moment. It wasn't a fairy tale, but it was real. It was ours. I still had bad days. Days when the anger came back, when I remembered everything and wanted to scream. But those days were fewer now. They were smaller. I was learning to live with the weight of the past. I was learning to let go. Tanya eventually left the company. I heard through the grapevine that she'd moved to a different city, started a new life. I didn't feel any satisfaction in her departure. I just felt relief. The reminder of that painful time was gone. Derek and I started a new tradition. Every year on our anniversary, we'd take a trip, just the two of us. We'd go somewhere we'd never been, explore new places, make new memories. It was our way of honoring the past while building a future. The first trip was to Paris. We walked along the Seine, visited museums, ate croissants at tiny cafes. It was everything I'd ever dreamed of, and for the first time in years, I felt like I was truly happy. One evening, as we sat on a balcony overlooking the city, Derek took my hand. You saved me, he said. When I was lost, when I was scared, when I didn't know who I was, you were always there. And I'm so grateful. I squeezed his hand. We saved each other. He smiled, and it was the kind of smile that reached his eyes. I love you, Natasha. I love you too, Derek. I thought about everything we'd been through, the 20 years of marriage, the forgotten anniversary, the painful road to healing. I thought about the woman I'd been and the woman I'd become. I'd been invisible for so long, but I wasn't invisible anymore. I was seen, I was loved, I was finally truly happy. I looked out at the city lights, sparkling in the darkness. The world was full of possibility, and I was ready to embrace it.